question is underground space planning. The next report is Zheng Zhou. The next report time.
Good afternoon, everybody, and not so much people there. Right. My name is Zhou Zheng. I'm from the Southwest Jiaoyu University School of Architecture and Design Institution, and I'm a graduate student. This is my second year. I'm working in the compact city and underground space laboratory. And today the topic of my presentation is comparative study on the influence mechanism of underground space in the compact development of Tokyo Station and Shenzhen Futian Station based on GIS technology. I want to use 5 parts to illustrate my presentation. Here you can see the basic theory, research origins, today plus contrast summary. This is the research origin. From the perspective of the quantitative analysis or experience, we all know that with the application of underground space, the compactness and accessibilities of the site area, I mean the 800 meters around the site, will be enhanced. But this is more like a common sense. If we want to use the way of digitalization or the technology of quantitatively analysis, so we can figure out how precisely they were influenced by the application of underground space. So these papers use Google Maps and CDPOI to obtain the spatial location data and the spatial attribute data of the site. Then we use the comprehensive compactness variable formula to calculate the compactness and accessibility before and after the application of underground space. Our site is Shenzhen Futian Station and Tokyo Station. We want to use this way to explore the impact mechanism of underground space utilizations on urban compact development. Our results show that with the application of underground space, I mean that stations, the compact of the research area were enhanced. And then, according to our advanced experiments, we can figure out for each unit of a compactness, the amount of underground space development were required in both stations. And our basic theory is compacted city theories. What I want to emphasize is, in the past decades, so many scholars and specialists use their awareness to try to understand the concept of compact cities, but after several years, there's still no clear concept of compact cities, and our calculations use a compactness matrix, which is a way to calculate the compactness in a research area. So this is the related literature development in China for the past 10 years. In 2007, the concept of compact city was first time named in China, and for the past 10 years, many specialists are trying to use their own ways to calculate the compactness. So the compactness calculations formula we use is based on Xuan-Xin, who first used this calculation to calculate the compactness of a city, which is a larger size and in geography area. And we changed this field. We want to use this formula to calculate the architectures, but after revising. Later, I will illustrate why we will revise it and how we revise it. But before that, we need to figure out one question is, what is compactness? How do we define compactness? In English word, the compact, which means using more space while carrying more content. So if we want to use a brief conclusion to describe it, it will be, we think the compactness is a ratio between the content and space, and you can also translate the content into intensity, strength, or magnitude, whatever you want, but the core concept is the ratio between the content and space, and you can see the formulas in the left figure. And Aij, which means the connection between the plot A and plot I and plot J, and which is a ratio between the Zi and Zij's and the distance from the Ij. In the formula, we can see C is a constant to adjust the unit, and T represents the compactness, which is based on the sigma A and the number of architectures. To calculate our result, to obtain our result, we use the our technically platform is GIS and the Python system bring by the GIS system, and we also use the C and Google Earth to help us to obtain the basic data. Our research project, like I said, is the Futian station in Shenzhen and the Tokyo stations in Japan. Now I want to explain why we need to revise that formula. First one, that formula was used in a larger scale. It's about city conclusions, but we want to use it to calculate the 800 meters around the site. So this is a much smaller. And we thought that it can be seen from the formula that the definition of two Zi and Zj originally means the area of standard small plots, and we thought that was a problem because if we want to use an architecture, one building as an object, we have to consider the strengths, the developed strengths. So we want to change the area into the total area of each unit, each architectures. Also, the distance of the two targets will be switched into three parts. A path, we have to consider the vertical problems. We don't want to choose or deal with this calculation in a platform. After obtaining the basic data, we use the Python languages to help us calculating the final results. And you can see this is a Futian station's calculation result about compactness in 2008. And then it's a left side is 2008 and the right side is 2015, about 7 years more or less. 2008 is a year which the Futian station project were engaged, and when it was finished, it is 2015. And we can see from the figure, and in the center of the right figure, there is a very strong connection from the center of the research area to the edge of the area. This is the application of the Futian underground station. And if we can got the compactness, and we also got the total area of the Futian underground station, so we assume several different total area of that station to get the different compactness result. So we find that the compactness of the whole area was strongly connected to the total area of the Futian underground stations. So we assume that there must be one critical value which doesn't generate any changes in the whole compactness. So we assume several values, several practical value and real values, and we find this slope. This is a curve about the Futian underground station and the original compactness, and we can see the critical value of this underground station is about 140,000 square meters. It's a very large scale. And here, this is the progress of how we got that critical value. And according to the critical value and the real value of the underground stations, we can figure out the underground space compaction rate, which means for each unit of the compactness, the amount of underground space development is about 10,000 square meters. This is the experiment in Futian station. So we did the same thing in the Tokyo station. The time is 2017. You can see the figure is different, and the left, right side, the slope is different. And we use the same thing to figure out the critical value and the compaction rate. You can see the critical value of the Tokyo station is much smaller. It's just about 18,000 square meters, and the slope is not so high. And for each unit of compactness T, the amount of Tokyo underground space development is required is about 11,000. And this is a comparison of the 2-3 experiments. You can see the change of the compactness in Shenzhen and relatively higher in Tokyo in 2017. And also we can figure out the slope of two stations and the critical value of two stations. We can see they are slightly different in the slope, but very much different in their critical values. So how do we explain these problems? The first conclusion is that compared with the Shenzhen area, we all know that Tokyo is so much compactness. So the distance, average distance between the surrounding buildings of the Tokyo station has been greatly reduced. So this causes the compactness is to a relatively high value. And the second reason is that the density of the buildings around Shenzhen Fujian station is relatively low. However, the building value is generally large, I mean the total area of the buildings. So such a layout method will lead a high demand of space volume and unnecessary space waste from the perspective of the compact city. And the last reason is that the average force T is based on the numbers of subjects, and we can back to these figures, and it's very obviously that the numbers of the subject, I mean buildings in Tokyo in the research area, same scale, is much higher, much more than the Shenzhen. So in advanced theories, we want to think about how to be closer to the underground space, because we changed the way of calculating about the path, because we thought that one path could be a combination of three parts, including two vertical parts and the one path from the 2D building. And we thought we should reduce the calculation time, because the first time we used that, it was really time consuming, over 1 million groups of data. So we find out the reason is that the Python language bring by the GIS system has a very low limitation about their operation speed. So we switched it into Python, and then we find we can reduce the calculation time very largely. So thank you for your watching. This is my presentation. All my classmates and teammates. Thank you.
Okay. And the next report is